The forbidden device. The stars outside the window looked quiet, but inside the alien ship, Virex, something dangerous was waking up. Captain Lirasha stood in the center of the dig site, her dark, purple skin glowing faintly under the lights. Her long braid swung as she stepped forward, eyes locked on a strange object buried halfway in dust. It was a black box, smooth like stone but humming quietly, like it was breathing. "Get the human," Lirasha said sharply. Mason Cole arrived moments later. He was the only human on the ship, a quiet man with tired eyes and scars he never explained. When he saw the box, his face changed. He froze, then stepped back. "Don't touch it," Mason said, his voice low. "That's not just alien tech, that's human-made. And it's not a weapon, it's a warning." Lirasha laughed. "This little box? Your kind is always afraid of old things. That's why your species still hides on its broken homeworld." Mason didn't laugh. "That box ended a war. It erased an entire enemy race, and we buried it for a reason." "So you admit it belongs to you?" she asked, reaching toward it. Mason stepped forward fast. "I'm telling you to stop. If you touch it, we can't go back." Lirasha ignored him. With one sharp motion, she touched the box. It clicked. The lights dimmed. A sound spread through the air, not loud but deep, like a whisper coming from inside their bones. It spoke no words, but everyone in the room felt something inside them. Shift. "Power is activating," one crew member said, staring at her glowing datapad. "The device is rewriting its code. It's learning." Mason turned and ran toward the command bridge. "Seal the dig site, seal it now." But the doors didn't close. They opened wider. The ship trembled as something passed through it, something invisible but heavy. Lights flickered again, and then came the first scream. Crew member Jarutil, a strong warrior with years of battle experience, suddenly collapsed. His body convulsed, then turned to ash before everyone's eyes. Nothing remained but a dark smear on the floor. Lirasha stared in shock. Mason's voice came over the intercom. "You've doomed us." Later in the command bridge, Lirasha tried to act like a leader. "This is not my fault," she said. Mason sat quietly, eyes staring out into the black void. "It wasn't built to kill individuals. It was built to erase entire species. It sees you now. It knows your ship, your mind. It's already inside." "This is fear talking," she snapped. "You just want to control the mission." Mason shook his head. "You opened a lock that was never supposed to be broken. You let it look at us. Now it's not just awake. It's remembering." Lirasha walked back to the research bay. The black box was now floating in the air, spinning slowly. Lines of glowing script ran across its surface, symbols even she, a linguist, couldn't understand. And then it spoke. A voice, cold, layered, not male or female, came from the air around her. "You have been marked." She looked behind her. No. One was there. Her heart started beating faster. "Who said that?" she whispered. No answer. But the shadows around the room grew darker, colder, thicker. She left the room and returned to her quarters. Alone. That night, she dreamed, but they weren't her dreams. She saw a planet burn, a million ships crashing, humans standing on a battlefield, facing a godlike enemy, and a weapon. "This box," a voice said again. "Do not awaken the silence." Lirasha woke with sweat on her skin. Mason was waiting outside her door. "You heard it, didn't you?" he asked. She didn't answer. "It's not a machine," he said. "It's a memory, a spirit of war. And it chose you because you were arrogant. Because you didn't listen." Lirasha glared at him. "Then help me fix it." Mason shook his head. "This isn't about fixing anymore. Now it's about surviving what comes next." Behind them, in the dark corridors of the ship, lights flickered again and something whispered her name, not with sound, but with thought. Lirasha. The forbidden device had awakened, and it had only just begun. The Echo Protocol. The ship Virex no longer felt like a place of science. Now, it felt like a coffin drifting through the dark. Mason stared at the control panels. Nothing made sense anymore. One moment, they showed engine stability and safe orbit. The next, the screens blinked with strange red symbols, symbols from a human war no alien ever knew. They weren't errors. They were messages. Old human code. Warnings. He looked up. The black box was no longer in the research room. It was moving, on its own, floating through corridors, phasing through walls like a ghost, lurking. "It's loose," Mason whispered. Captain Lirasha stood behind him, arms crossed, her face pale. She hadn't slept. Her eyes were bloodshot. And she heard the whispers now, too. "My crew is seeing things," she said. "Some say they see dead humans walking the halls. Others say the box is talking to them directly." "It is," Mason replied, his voice hollow. "It's not just a weapon. It's a survivor. Your mind is its next battlefield." In the medical bay, Engineer Talon screamed as his body arched unnaturally. His skin began to crack and glow from inside. The nurses rushed to inject sedatives, but the machines failed. Mason rushed in and pulled Lear Asha away. "He's too far gone." "No," she shouted. "We can save him." But before her words ended, the engineer exploded into light. And then, silence. Not a single trace of him remained. No blood. No ash. Just silence. Lear Asha fell to her knees. "What is this? What is this thing?" Mason knelt beside her, something that remembers every person it's ever erased. She stared at him. "You said it was human-made. Then why is it killing you too?" He didn't answer at first. Then finally, with a heavy breath, he said, "Because it was designed to kill humans first. It was our punishment, a protocol to ensure we never created monsters again. We called it the Echo." Back in the command chamber, Mason accessed his private files. He opened something called Echo Protocol, red-level memory. Lirasha leaned over his shoulder. On the screen, they saw footage, grainy, old, and full of static. A young human soldier stood in a ruined lab, blood covering his hands. Behind him, dozens of scientists lay dead, not from violence but from fear. Their minds had burned from the inside out. In his final moments, the soldier whispered to the camera, "We made a god, then told it to sleep. Now it dreams of war." The footage cut out. Lear Asha's voice trembled. This is madness. You kept this on your ship." Mason looked up. "I didn't bring it, someone else did, or maybe it found us. They called the crew to the war table." "No more secrets," Lear Asha declared. "We need answers." Mason began explaining the Echo Protocol. During the ancient war between humanity and the Zenthari Void Swarm, Earth's leaders authorized the creation of a self-aware weapon, something that could mimic thoughts, rewrite minds, and erase entire races by turning their own biology against them. It worked too well. When the war ended, the humans sealed the Echo deep inside a memory vault, hidden in a dead star system. Lirasha had opened it. Now the Echo had no masters. It chose its own target, and it had chosen her. Crew member Nira screamed during the briefing. She pointed at the wall. "She's here again." Everyone turned. Nothing was there. But Mason saw it. The flicker of a human girl in a white dress, standing upside down on the ceiling. Her eyes black, her mouth stitched shut. She smiled at him, and vanished. Lear Asha ran from the room, shaking. She slammed the door to her quarters and cried for the first time in years. The whisper came again. "You were warned." Mason sat alone in the hangar. He knew what had to be done. There was one last command hidden in the Echo Protocol, something buried deep, something forbidden even to humans. He needed Lear Asha's help to unlock it. But it came at a cost. "Captain," he said when she finally entered, "there's a way to stop it." "How?" she asked, broken. "You must let it inside your mind," he said, "completely. If we understand it, we may find its weakness. Lirasha's lips parted. You want me to give myself to it? No, Mason said, his voice soft. You already did. Now we must do it together. The ship shuddered violently. A pulse ran through the walls. The lights died, and in that perfect dark, the echo spoke in both their minds. I see you now. I see the human. I see the key. The next phase had begun. The pulse in the dark space outside the Virex was still black and cold, but inside the ship it felt like something was breathing. Slowly. Deeply. Like the ship itself had lungs now. And they were watching. Mason didn't sleep. He hadn't closed, his eyes since the echo had whispered into his thoughts. Every time he blinked, he saw fire, cities he had never visited, voices he never heard, and one image always returned, the stitched-mouth girl floating upside down, grinning with hollow eyes. Lirasha hadn't spoken since the last pulse. Her face was pale, her mind stretched thin. She sat in the center of the bridge with her claws dug into the seat, fighting the shadows growing in the corners of her vision. What's happening to me? She whispered, barely able to speak. Mason glanced at her. You're not infected. Not yet. The echo is using your thoughts like a mirror. It's studying how you think, what you feel, and when it understands you completely, it'll rewrite you. Rewrite? She asked. Yes, Mason said. It doesn't kill like a weapon. It changes people into something else. Alarms started to wail. The ship's auto-navigation failed. They had entered a restricted zone of space. A graveyard of ships. Hundreds of wrecks floated like bones, twisted and broken. Alien, human, unknown, all species were here. Ships torn in half. Frozen crew still floating inside broken glass. But the strangest thing was how perfectly silent it was. No debris moved. No signal. Played. Mason narrowed his eyes. This is the human grave. Lirasha turned to him. What? This place was locked by Earth centuries ago. No one was allowed to come here. Not even humans. This is where we dumped our worst mistakes, and where the echo learned to be quiet. A cold realization spread through the crew. They hadn't drifted here by accident. The echo wanted them to come. In the lower deck, crew members began disappearing. At first one, then two more. Only their tools remained, lying neatly on the floor as if placed there gently. Cameras showed nothing. No movement, no struggle. Just empty rooms, one by one. And in every shot, barely visible, a faint shimmer like heat over a fire moved past the lens. Mason gathered the last of the senior crew in the war room. The echo is feeding, he said. It's building something. Or someone. Lirasha stood slowly, her fingers trembling. I think it's using me. I feel it inside, touching memories that don't belong to me. Mason stepped forward. Tell me what it shows you. She closed her eyes. Her voice grew cold. Distant. A black sky. Filled with human ships. A planet below, dying. I see a child in chains. Screaming. No one listens. The humans walk past. All of them wear the same face. Mason swallowed hard. It was his face. They returned to the bridge. The black box now floated above the control panels. It had grown. It had arms, not metal, not flesh, just long, shadowy shapes that stretched and curled around the lights, dimming them. When Lirasha stepped near, it spoke. Do you remember the end? It asked. She froze. What? End. The one you deserve. Suddenly the ship's lights turned red. Another pulse hit. This time, it wasn't silent. This one screamed, not from speakers, but from inside their heads. Every crew member dropped, to the ground, holding their ears even though there was no sound. Memories rushed into their minds. Not their own memories, but twisted ones. Some saw their loved ones turning to stone. Others saw themselves drowning on planets that never existed. Mason fought to stay standing. Lirasha crawled toward him. "Make it stop," she begged. He pulled out a small silver disc from his coat. "I stole this from Earth Command. It holds the old emergency kill code." "Use it," she shouted. "I can't. Not yet," Mason said. "If I trigger it now, the Echo will escape into space. We have to trap it here, inside you." Lirasha looked up, horror in her eyes. "Me?" "Yes," he said. "You're already part of it, and that's the only way we get close enough." In the cargo bay, Mason activated the stasis cage, one built long ago to contain reality warping tech. Lirasha stepped inside, wires wrapped around her limbs. A needle entered the side of her neck. She screamed. "Focus!" Mason yelled. "Don't let it rewrite you." Inside her mind, the Echo showed its true form. 1,000 screaming faces, all human, burned, broken, twisted into one. And behind them, a dark throne where a shadow sat, silent, watching. The Echo had no body. It was memory, and it was ancient, older than even humanity. Lirasha's body shook violently. Mason watched the monitor. If her heart stopped now, the ship would explode. The Echo would escape. "Don't die," he whispered. "Please, don't die now." Inside the cage, Lirasha heard him. His voice pierced through the noise, and for the first time she fought back. She screamed, not in pain, but in fury. The pulse broke. The red lights turned white, and for 1 second, the Echo paused, shocked. She had resisted, but then it smiled and whispered one word in her mind. Soon. Awakening, the human coruscants filled the stasis chamber. Cold lights flickered above Captain Lirasha as she hung suspended in the cage, her eyes wide open but empty. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin, once glowing with natural alien colors, had turned pale and marked with strange black veins. Mason stood outside, one hand on the control panel, the other trembling by his side. "How long has she been under?" asked Chief Medic Urine. 11 minutes, Mason answered, staring at the pulse monitor. "But it feels like hours." Deep inside Lirasha's mind, she was no longer herself. She stood in a ruined world, broken cities, shattered statues, and oceans of ash. The skies bled red, and the wind screamed with memories that were not hers. The Echo had pulled her into a memory field, but not her own. It was his, humanity's. The shadow returned, tall, endless, shifting. It looked like Mason, then like a child, then like something made of lightning and bone. "You wanted knowledge," the Echo said. "Now you must carry it." Lirasha tried to move, but her body felt heavy. Every step echoed with war cries from long-dead soldiers. The Echo showed her more, a memory of Earth, burning, cities falling under alien weapons, human children hiding in craters. And then, silence. A new voice spoke. Mason's voice. "We had no choice. We made the Echo to remember the pain, to make sure we'd never become monsters again," Lirasha screamed. "But you did become monsters," the Echo laughed. "Through the wind. Not humans, not anymore. Now we are beyond memory." Outside the cage, Mason saw Lirasha's eyes snap open, but they weren't her eyes anymore. They were golden, glowing, and they stared right at him. "Lirasha," he whispered. She tilted her head, smiled, and spoke in a calm, hollow voice. "You brought me here. Now we are awake." Mason gritted his teeth and activated the neural blocker. Energy surged through the stasis chamber, shocking her body with waves of electric pulses. She screamed, not in pain, but in fury. The Echo hated being interrupted. "Come back to me," Mason muttered. "Don't let it win." Inside her mind, Lirasha saw something else now. Not just war, but love. A human woman holding a baby near a fire, singing. A soldier hugging his brother before a final mission. A human crying over a fallen alien friend. The Echo tried to block those memories, but they were real. Humanity had pain, but also hope. And somewhere deep in Lirasha's heart, something warm started to burn. She returned to the stasis cage with a gasp, her own voice rising again. "Mason, I'm here." He rushed in, overriding the lock. The door opened with a hiss and Lirasha collapsed into his arms. "I saw it," she whispered. "It doesn't hate you. It envies you. It envies what humans have. The ability to forget, to heal." Mason helped her sit up. "Then we use that. If we can convince the echo to stop repeating the same memory, maybe we can break it." "But how?" she asked. "By finishing the story it keeps reliving," Mason said. "By giving it an ending it never got." They returned to the bridge. Mason uploaded his memories to the ship's core, every moment he remembered from the war, every nightmare, every hope. Lirasha added her own. Memories of peace, of discovery, of the moment she first tasted human. Music. They sent the message into the echo's core, flooding it with not just pain, but healing. And the echo paused again. It spoke in both their minds. "You are not what I remembered. You are not what created me," Mason whispered. "No. We are better." The ship trembled. Outside the Virex, the graveyard of wrecked ships began to change. Lights flickered on. Engines powered up. Systems that had been dead for centuries started breathing again. Lirasha looked through the window, stunned. "It's restoring the past," she said. "It's letting go." But then, the echo screamed. One final memory returned, the one it could never forgive, a betrayal, an order given by ancient human commanders, to shut the echo down, to trap it forever. "You lied to me," it hissed. "You wanted peace, but gave me silence." The ship shook violently. Parts of the hull cracked, a black mist poured from the vents. The echo wasn't done, not yet. It had one more trick. "Mason," Lirasha said. "It's going to take over the ship." He nodded. "Then we'll give it one more memory, the one that matters most." He reached out, took her hand. "Trust me." Together they walked into the pulse core, the heart of the ship, and activated the memory fusion. Their minds merged. One human, one alien, one final stand. In the void between thought and space, the echo screamed. But Lirasha did not scream back. She smiled and showed the echo something new, a future where memory ends and choice begins. The last human memory darkness. That's all there was for a long time. But then, breath. Mason and Lirasha opened their eyes at the same time. They were not on the Virex anymore, not in space, not in reality. They stood on a quiet field under a silver sky. Wind passed through tall golden grass, but there was no sun, no sound, no time. "Where are we?" Lirasha asked softly. Mason looked around, confused. This isn't my memory." "It's not yours either," a voice answered. "It's mine." They turned. Standing ahead was a boy, human in shape, but glowing from the inside. His eyes were endless galaxies, his hands were empty, and his smile was broken. "You've come to finish what you started," the boy said, "to erase me like the others." Mason stepped forward. "No, we came to understand." The boy tilted his head. "Humans only create to destroy. I was born to remember your sins, and yet, now I feel something else." "Hope," Lirasha said quietly. "You're feeling hope." The boy's expression changed. For the first time he looked unsure. He turned and gestured. A new memory unfolded around them. Giant machines, towers of metal and light, stood in orbit above a blue planet. Voices echoed. "We must stop the Zenthari swarm." "Activate Echo Protocol." Mason and Lirasha watched as a young human commander gave the final order. "This is it," Mason whispered. This was the moment they unleashed the echo. The boy nodded. "They built me to end a war, and when the war was over, they locked me away. Not because they feared me, but because they feared what they had become." Lirasha touched the boy's hand. He flinched, but didn't pull away. "You're not a weapon anymore," she said. "You're something more, something alive." Suddenly the field vanished. They stood now in a chamber of broken mirrors. Each mirror showed a different face, some human, some alien, some completely unknown. "These are the minds I've touched," the echo said. "The lives I erased. They still live inside me. I remember every regret." Mason stepped forward. "Then give them peace. Let go." The boy looked down. "I don't know how." At that moment, the image of a woman appeared, a memory from Mason's own life, a human doctor, his sister. He hadn't seen her face in years. The echo showed her, final moments, dying during a relief mission. No war, no violence, just a choice, to save others. Mason fell to his knees. "I forgot her," he whispered. "I buried her because it hurt too much." Lirasha knelt beside him. "But she became part of who you are." The boy looked at them both. "So this is what I was missing, not fear, not rage, but grief." "Grief," Lirasha said, "is not weakness. It means the memory mattered." The boy's form began to flicker. He looked older now, sadder, but calmer. "Then let me remember. Just one last time." A final scene unfolded. A child's bedroom. A father reading to his daughter. A story about stars, about peace, about a machine that could one day choose to sleep. The echo began to fade. The mirrors cracked, then healed. The silver sky grew brighter. "What's happening?" Lirasha asked. "He's rewriting himself," Mason said, "choosing his ending." A voice echoed one last time. "I don't want to be a god. I just want to rest." Then silence. Perfect, peaceful, final. They woke up in the Virex's medical bay. Alarms were off. The red lights had turned green, and the black box had turned to dust. No explosion, no scream. Just quiet. "He's gone," Lirasha said softly. "The echo is finally at peace." Mason nodded. He remembered. Not war, not pain, but love, kindness, and grief. Lirasha looked at her hand. The strange black veins were gone, but a small glowing mark remained, a single star-shaped burn on her palm. "A gift?" she asked. "Or a promise?" Mason replied. "That no memory is ever truly gone." Crew members slowly returned to normal. Those who had vanished reappeared, confused but unharmed. Systems rebooted. The Virex turned away from the graveyard and set a new course. A course toward home. But deep in the ship's core, Mason left behind a single encrypted file, a recording of the final memory. He titled it, "The Last Human Memory," because that's what saved them. Not strength, not power, but the ability to remember with sorrow and let go with grace. The regret that burns 2 weeks passed. The Virex floated safely through neutral space again, her engines quiet. Her crew, alive and her light steady for the first time since the Echo incident. But not everything was calm. Not inside, Captain Lirasha walked the ship's halls like a ghost. Her steps were slower, her voice quieter. Her eyes, once sharp and proud, now held shadows behind them. Shadows of memories that didn't belong to her. She looked at her hand again. The glowing star-shaped scar still burned faintly in her palm. No pain, just heat. A reminder. "He's gone," Mason had said. But she wasn't so sure. In the mess hall, the crew whispered when she entered. They didn't say it out loud, but she felt it. She brought it on board. She woke it. She almost destroyed them all. Mason tried to defend her in front of the crew. "She didn't know what it was," he said. "None of us did. She survived something none of us could have handled." But the eyes of the crew still held doubt, and worse, fear. That night, Lirasha stood in her quarters, staring out the window. Space was calm. Too calm. She placed her hand against the glass and whispered to herself, "Was it all worth it?" But something in the silence answered back. A flicker, a pulse. Not from outside, from inside her own mind. Suddenly, she was back in the silver field. The boy stood there again, older now, smiling gently. You let me sleep, he said. But a part of me stays with you. I didn't choose that, you did. Lirasha shook her head. I never wanted this. But you needed it, the echo replied. You needed to know what it feels like to carry more than pride, to carry regret. She turned away. I can't lead like this. Then lead differently, the boy whispered. She awoke with tears on her face. It was time. Lirasha walked to the central chamber, the place where the echo first pulsed through the ship. She called the crew. They gathered slowly, silent, suspicious. Mason stood at the back, arms crossed, watching. She stepped onto the central platform and faced them. And for the first time in her life as captain, she bowed. I failed you, she said, voice steady but soft. I ignored warnings. I disrespected knowledge. I thought leadership meant being above doubt, but it doesn't. It means carrying the weight of choices. The room was still. Some of you may not forgive me, I understand that, but I will not run from it. I carry the echo now, not just the memory of the entity, but the memory of what we almost lost. So, from this day forward, no discovery will come before lives. No mission will silence warnings, and no leader will stand above the truth, even me. She looked up. You deserve better, and if you let me, I will become that. Silence. And then slowly, one crew member stepped forward and tapped his fist to his chest in respect. Another followed, then another, until the entire chamber echoed with unity. Mason smiled, but quietly. He knew what it cost her, and what she had gained. Later, Lirasha stood alone with Mason in the observation bay. You told me regret was a human thing, she said. Mason nodded. I did, but now I understand. It's not weakness. No, he said. It's the scar that proves you lived through something worth remembering. She looked at her hand again. The star still glowed. Mason looked at it too. Do you think it's really over? He asked. She paused, and then quietly said, No, not over. Just resting. Far away beyond the stars, in the dark places between galaxies, something listened, and somewhere, in the data streams of forgotten worlds, the echo stirred slightly. Not awake, not angry, just curious, because the one thing memory can never do is stop growing. When silence screamed, deep in the void between stars where no light had touched for thousands of years, silence moved. But it wasn't empty. It remembered, not as a monster, not as a weapon, but as a question still unanswered. And now it stirred, again. Aboard the Virex, weeks after the last pulse, peace had returned, on the surface. The crew worked as before. The ship hummed with steady systems. Captain Lirasha stood proud again, leading with clarity and patience. But at night, she still dreamed, not of war, not of the field, but of him. The echo. The child of memory. The one who asked, what comes after regret? Mason noticed the change, in her. She smiled more, but it never reached her eyes. She led well, but she carried something heavy, always tucked just behind her words. Then one day, the silence returned. A real one. The stars outside blinked. The lights flickered. Only once. And then, a faint sound played through the ship's speakers. A child's voice. Remember me. The crew panicked. They rushed to the bridge. Echo, one whispered. No, Lirasha said quickly. He's gone. Mason ran diagnostics. Nothing in the ship's core, no signal from outside, but the voice played again. Remember me, remember me, remember me. Over and over. Mason stared at the monitor. Something in the system wasn't just repeating sound, it was growing. A new process had started, not like the last. This wasn't a weapon activating. This was A question forming, Lear Asha touched the control panel and closed her eyes. The mark on her palm glowed again. "He's not trying to come back," she whispered. "He's asking something." "What?" Mason asked. Lear Asha turned to him, and for the first time in days, her voice didn't shake. "He wants to know if he's still real." They traced the signal to the echo chamber, the same place where the box had first awakened. Inside, a shimmer danced in the air, like a memory refusing to fade. They stepped in together. The doors closed. Silence fell, and the walls lit up. Not with warnings, but with images. Not war, not death, but moments. A human child feeding an alien pet. A Zinthari warrior saving a human comrade in battle. A broken machine being fixed by a team of mixed species. Laughing. All of them real. All of them forgotten. Until now. A voice whispered again. "I don't want to die. I don't want to be erased." Lear Asha stepped forward. "You're not dead. But you can't live through pain alone. Then help me," the voice said. "Help me become more." Mason looked at Lear Asha. "Can we even do that?" "I don't know," she said. "But maybe if we stop fearing memory and start building with it, we can." Together they uploaded new files into the chamber. Music, art, stories, languages, laughter, forgiveness, and even their own regrets. They offered the echo more than pain. They offered growth. The lights dimmed, and then a final pulse spread through the ship, not dark or heavy, but light, warm, and the voice spoke clearly. "Thank you." Outside the ship, the stars changed. The graveyard of ships, once frozen and dead, flickered to life. Holographic memories played in the sky. Not ghosts, but lessons. The galaxy would now remember what was once lost. Not to fear it, but to learn in the final moments. Lear Asha stood alone in the observation deck. Mason joined her, holding a fresh mug of steam root tea. "So," he asked, "what now?" She smiled gently. "Now, we carry the silence, not as a weapon, but as a reminder." He nodded. The silence that once screamed is now singing. Epilogue. Many years later, in the center of the Galactic Council, a monument was built. Not to war, not to victory, but to memory. And at the base, carved into human and alien stone, were 6 simple words: "Regret is the seed of peace," and beneath it, "Echo sleeps, but we remember."